Hey everybody, it's Brian Kenny. Welcome to MLB Now. It's been 10 years since Armando Galarraga's near perfect game. It's become a great lesson for baseball in just humanity. And we can look back on it now fondly, even with Jim Joyce joining us now. Jim, it's Brian Kenny. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Brian. How are you?
Terrific. It is something how this has become what it has become, right? Because obviously you felt awful with the call that stopped the perfect game. And yet now it seems like most everyone has a very good reaction to the way everyone behaved. What are your thoughts?
I agree with everything you just said. And 10 years ago today, I was devastated. After that night, after I got into the locker room, I was absolutely devastated, but it actually turned into something bigger than that actually, and it was a huge negative to start. But as the story evolved and it was reported, the support started in quicker than the negativity did actually. And like you said, it's turned into something you probably wouldn't expect in a normal outcome, to tell you the absolute truth.
Yeah, even the way it happened in real time, and then the next day, because I know I was watching it live as well. I was on live radio at the time, and even the reaction there from the lack of outrage and how it did become bigger because of the way everyone chose to behave. Like you couldn't choose how your instant call. But the way everybody chose to behave a certain way. What stands out mostly to you now, 10 years later?
But I'll be very honest with you. The very first thing that hit me right after the call was Armando looking at me, and that look on his face was not a look of anger or what's going on. He smiled, and I think that captured a lot of what was going on between the both of us at that time.
And it's interesting. Go ahead, Jim.
I don't even know how to put that part in words, because just that look and him walking, he just lost a perfect game, and he looked at me and he had that smile, and he actually walked to the mound.
I know later there were even all the players were like saying, hey, we've got to handle this the right way. It really showed something about the culture that includes the umpires, that you are all in this system together.
Exactly. Without a doubt, that's exactly true. And I have said many times, when Jim Leyland first came out after the call, Jim Leyland did not say a word to me, did not unload on me. I mean, probably in any other circumstance, maybe there would be that manager-umpire confrontation. That didn't happen.
Right.
And Jim didn't say anything and turned around, went back to the dugout. It wasn't until after the last out, the 28th out was made, that Jim actually came out, and he was the only one that said something to me, and that was, Jim, you missed the call.
Right.
That was it.
He handled it like a man.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, right. Like, hey, what are we going to do now? Yell at you? What are we going to do? I wanted to ask you, only a short time later, calls are just turned around like that, and nobody thinks a thing of it. What's your view of the way things evolved into very quickly?
Well, it turned into probably one of the better things that happened for baseball, and that's replay. I don't want to say that I want to make baseball the perfect sport, officiating-wise or playing-wise, but it did turn it into that we get the majority, probably 99% of the calls right now. What happened to me that night will never happen again. It'll never, on the basis, it'll never happen again because of replay, and that's a good thing. And I don't want to say I'm glad I'm the one that maybe had my hand in changing that, but the call definitely had a hand in changing the atmosphere of baseball now and replay.
I think, and Jim, I remember at the time when it was evolving and there was resistance, there was a thought that, wait, you're going to, and maybe this is just the best example, you can't show that the umpires can be wrong. If we've learned anything, it's that I think people now, when a call is made up, people don't hoot and yell at the umpire, oh, will they overturn that call? It's almost like we accept that human nature, I think, a lot more readily now, just as we did with, hey, we all make mistakes. What are your thoughts on that? That it's not a big deal now when a call gets overturned.
I think you're exactly right. In how you're displaying that, because now when the umpires go to replay now, when I first started doing it, when I was still on the field and we were just started replay, you would go to the replay headphones and you would hear these murmurs in the background of, he's safe, or he's out. And then when we made our decision, people were actually upset about it. And then it evolved into, okay, replay is going to take care of this now. Replay is going to get this right. Now, there's still that a little bit of anxiety on which way the call is going to go or whatever. And there's still some discussions about some plays. But the majority of the time, and I would have to say almost every time, out of the replay center, the plays are now corrected.
Right. Yeah, to the best of everybody's ability in real time.
Exactly.
Which right. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Where are you on the electronic strike zone?
Totally against that one. I'm sorry. But the replay part of it, I'm okay with. The strike zone takes away a lot from the umpire behind the plate. We've gotten to a point, the major league umpires have, is that they are as consistent as they've ever been in the history of baseball. There's no doubt in my mind about that. The strike zone, if you just look at the average umpire in the major leagues, is rated anywhere from 96 to 98% correct. And that's with ZE and strikes, K zone and stuff like that. So I'm not a fan of that one yet, and I don't think I will be. That's your bread and butter as an umpire.
But the argument would be, Jim, that you guys were making 97 to 98% to 99% correct on the field too. It's just those little things that are, wow, you really missed that one. Wouldn't we want to, umpires would still be working. You still have to be there, but wouldn't you want to just that 1-2-1 pitch in the 8th inning of a big game that any human might just miss? The argument would be you can eliminate that one call that changed things around in the game.
Okay, let's take that call to replay then. It would be my answer to that. If I say, okay, give a manager the opportunity to do the same thing as he does in replay. If you're in that situation, let's turn it around just a little bit. Let's say you're in a perfect game situation, and you have that happen on a pitch like you're talking about. What happened to me on the bases? Okay, let the manager, I don't know, maybe I put a number on it and let him challenge that. Okay, let's go to the K zone then. We have the technology supposedly, so let's go to that technology and say, you know what? Upon further review, the pitch was a strike.
That's interesting. Okay, I actually hadn't heard that before, and I hear it from Jim Joyce himself. All right, we have time to think about that. That's interesting. All right, good. Let me ask you
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. We're going to open that up to debate. Once we all get back on MLB Now, I can see Eric Burns there, Dan Plesac will all be,
right.
Hey, Jim Joyce had a good point. Let's think about this.
But why would we rely on, that's the wrong choice of words. You're going to have an umpire that's going to have something in his ear like I have right now. And all of a sudden the pitch is going to come in and it's going to go red light, green light, or beep or whatever. And all of a sudden now there's no reaction at all. The umpire is going to be waiting for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, if this malfunctions, now the umpire is going to have to make a call. And all of a sudden the umpire is going to go, because you rely on reaction. You can't do anything until the action happens.
Mm-hmm.
If you're delayed in that reaction, I think there's worse outcomes that can come from that instead of a good outcome. So I don't know how many pitches you want to make. That could be up for debate.
Okay.
But if you get to the 9th inning, like you're talking about, and all of a sudden that pitch comes in, the umpire says strike or ball, it doesn't really matter. Okay, let a manager challenge that then.
Okay, that's a good idea to ponder. I have one quick question before we go. When baseball does come back and they want to keep the humans distant from each other initially, just a quick question. As a home plate umpire, could you call a game from behind the pitcher's mound? Would you be able to do that?
I would prefer not to.
Right.
We've seen pitchers get hit, and let's just put me even in my prime standing behind the mound. I've done that a couple times in spring training where the home plate umpire has gotten hurt, and I've gone behind the mound. Tim McClellan has done it a couple times. You imagine Tim McClellan behind the mound and somebody shooting one back through, and we're not as agile as the players are, and I think that's a recipe maybe for somebody getting hurt. I still prefer precautionary measures behind the plate.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, people out there, you want to read more about, because it is a great story about the way everyone reacted and behaved, especially in this day and age. Nobody's Perfect, the book that was written with Jim wrote, and that's like 2011. People can find it on anywhere, Amazon, anywhere. Nobody's Perfect. Armando Galarraga, Jim Joyce wrote that book, and so people can find that and find out a lot more good information on that. And also Armando Galarraga interviewed by MLB Tonight. They can find that on MLB.com. Hey, Jim, pleasure talking with you. It's a great story, great lesson. And I hope all the interviews are pleasant the way they should be.
Actually, every interview that I've done in the past week has been very, very supportive, just like the interview that you afforded me the same way. I thank you for the way that the media and the press has also done this, because really, if it wouldn't have come out the way it was and the way that the press portrayed it, it wouldn't be what it is today. So from my part, I thank you guys.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to learn and relearn in the way we can't control what happens. We can control the way we react to things. Jim Joyce. Jim, best of luck with everything, and hopefully we'll see you out there soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.